Shemai, I'm Hannah,
And I'm Charlotte.
and welcome to the Purple Sector.
So today we are joined by the lovely SteF.
I'm from All About SteF1 and I do very similar content to the Purple Sector. So yes, go ahead and subscribe.
We'll put all her links in the description below, like always. And yeah, please make sure you do subscribe to her because her content is really good. So Hannah, do you want to kick us off?
So first things first, what I need to talk about is qualifying. So for me, the kind of two of the standouts personally were Daniel Ricciardo getting his Renault up into 5th and Pierre Gasly qualifying 7th in AlphaTauri with Alexander Albon in the Red Bull in 9th.
I think every week we just are rooting for Alex to do well, and like I know he got into Q3 this week, but Pierre still out qualified him, so it's obviously something that he does need to work on the Saturdays.
He's on his way up though. He got knocked out in Q2 last week though, so a better job from him.
It just feels weird though saying, "Oh, better job from him." Forget it now of Q2 this time when he's in a Red Bull. Is comparatively he seems to be very similar to Pierre. But I'm not going to lie, if that was Pierre in that seat, he'd have probably got dropped by now. Pierre's downfall was that Alex was doing well in the Toro Rosso, whereas the Red Bull on principle are never going to put Pierre back in that seat, and they can't get any of their Red Bull juniors up at the moment because most of them haven't got the super license points.
Obviously, we all want Albon to do so well, and in that car he should be doing well. And I think we should talk about Hulk as well because, you know, he's come back. Qualified P3, like actual madness. So Steph, what do you think about what was your reaction when you saw that he got P3?
I was actually screaming for him. I was just so buzzing. I think they said it was his best quali result since like 2016, and I was like, oh my god, poor Hulk, I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, I was so happy to see him up there, and obviously out qualifying Stroll as well.
I think it's interesting with Hulkenberg. He's definitely shown, even though he obviously didn't get to race last week, that this is why he deserves to be in F1.
Do you want to talk about your main point of the race, Steph? I know you've got a couple you could choose from.
Now that we've finished round 5, I think you can definitely see that there's some big gaps in between teammates. So your one that springs to mind instantly is the one between Charles and Seb, because Charles, I think, is on 45 points in the championship now, and Seb is literally on 10, which is like a big difference, especially considering Seb is a 4-time world champion. We also have gaps between Alex and Max. Obviously, that one's closing up a little bit, but also a massive one is between Lando and Carlos in the McLarens. And I just wanted to put it to you ladies, like, what do you think? Do you think these gaps are going to stay as big as they are?
The Seb and Charles situation, for me, is very reminiscent of 2014 with Daniel Ricciardo. I think Seb has now seen that he's no longer the future of that team, and it's just stabilised him completely. I also think Ferrari are just atrocious. I think Charles will wipe the floor with them, to be honest. I don't see Seb picking himself back up. I think ultimately he's broken. I actually worry whether he'll complete the season at all. I think the way it's going, I wouldn't blame him if he went sack it off. Alex and Max, I still think it's an interesting one because Max is very much top dog at Red Bull. He is the Michael Schumacher of Red Bull now, you could tell very much over the weekend. The confidence he had in both himself and the team and in the car and their strategies. The fact that he went along with their strategy, even though it probably seemed a bit wacky. But I think Alex will hopefully build up confidence. But I don't see Alex challenging him. And I think Lando will beat Carlos. I think McLaren have realised that Lando is the future of their team, especially now Carlos is going, as much as they'll probably give them fair treatment. Also the fact that how well Lando has bonded with this team, like we've all seen. The stuff about him dismantling his car and even like the other night bringing donuts to him, is he's ingrained himself in them, and sometimes it's that kind of team spirit and those little things that allow you to have an edge as a driver. Being a strong driver and a future world champion isn't just being fast on track. It's playing the long game and kind of the inter-team dynamics.
Red Bull situation, I know Alex could be getting close to Max, but he won't be challenging Max to beat him in the championship. Seb and Ferrari, also Charles is going to beat Seb because that car seems to be much more suited to Charles's driving standards. Seb, I know we had a bigger gap between last race and the first race, but Seb didn't forget how to drive a car in that time. So there's obviously something going on behind the scenes or with that car that isn't suited for Seb. And with McLaren, I agree with you, Hannah. I definitely think that Lando is going to wipe the floor with Carlos. You can tell, like what you said, he's so integrated in that team, and McLaren is a very family oriented like team anyway. Yeah, I think they've definitely put all their faith in Lando, and you can tell that watching the unbox, it's probably not on purpose, but there's more of Lando than there is Carlos, whereas last year there was more Carlos where there was Lando. So yeah, Lando will beat Carlos, Charles will beat Seb, and Alex will beat Max. Hannah, do you want to say your point now?
I was very happy to see Max Verstappen win the race, and just seeing how much of a driver he's become, how well developed. Like, I was a big fan of him when he started in Toro Rosso, and you can tell he has that comfort and kind of confidence in himself now that he didn't have. Like the fact that he turns around on the radio and says, "I'm not going to be driving like a grandma. This is basically the closest I've been to the Mercedes." And I reckon if that was Alex, they'd have literally told Alex, "No, back that car off now." Whereas the team have gone, "Actually, we will let you do what you want to do, Max, and we will work the strategy around him." And that's the psychological dominance that makes a future world champion. So saying about like team differences, seeing Lewis overtake Valtteri near the end, Lewis has won this. He's won the world championship now. It'll make it interesting. Max won't challenge him for it because of the car, but I like a bit of spiciness on the track.
I think we have to remember, like, we're all saying that Mercedes have done bad. They were still second and third. I think people need to remember that. Everyone on Twitter is like, "Oh, well, they've been really bad." All right, but they're still leading. Lewis is still leading, and they were still second and third. It wasn't as if they were like 11th and 12th, you know. So, but yeah, like it was nice to see someone kind of like battling them, because that's the closest battle that we've had the whole time.
Yeah.
Credit where credit is due. He was really good, and he deserved the win this week because Red Bull, that strategy was amazing. He drove perfectly. He was so close to the Mercedes from the get-go. And even when Bottas and him pitted at the same time, Bottas was nowhere near Max. It just shows how kind of like, I know Collie wasn't so good for Red Bull, but how dominant they were on the Sunday. And yeah, credit to them because they did a really good job this weekend.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Max can do now this weekend as well, because the conditions are going to be quite similar to what we had last weekend. So it's possible that Max will then be able to challenge the Mercedes and put a bit more pressure on them. And then if he then again wins the race and Hamilton is further behind, then he's closing up the gap again. I agree with Hannah. I still think that Lewis is going to go on to win the world championship, but we all want it to be a little bit closer so that we can have, you know, the spiciness. So I kind of want Max to win this weekend to see kind of what's going to happen for the rest of the season. But yeah,
I don't think Lewis like falls under pressure like quite like you saw last week on the radio when his tyre went. Like he was so calm. But it will be interesting to see if the Red Bull do stick with Mercedes over the next couple of weeks, how Lewis does react on track.
I think this is probably the most unsure I've seen the race, both in the confidence in his team and in the strategy, but also in himself. Like the fact that I think very much Mercedes, when they chose to pit the cars and stuff, yeah, it plays to you the strategy and kind of tyre wear. But also, I think they didn't want to risk kind of the embarrassment that Bottas had of Max overtaking him. Definitely, that psychological probably does play into the team in that they know Max is probably the best overtaker on the grid. He will find a gap, he will find his way through. And I think it kind of destabilised him a bit, which I quite like, because I hate kind of when one team's massively dominant. And I think if we've waited this long for a season, let's make it a cracker.
It is nice to see something a bit different. And I'm just going to go on to Ferrari now, because what is going on with Ferrari? Like, I just look every weekend and I just see Seb, what was it, P11 he qualified again?
P12, but he was promoted because of Ocon's penalty.
Oh, yeah. That just makes me so upset. And I think, obviously, from the whole, before the season, it was like, oh, Seb's not staying at Ferrari, Carlos is replacing him. That automatically put him in a, not a bad mindset, as to say, because he's a 4-time world champion, so he's probably very level-headed, but just the fact that they obviously didn't want him anymore. Each week we see there's just different problems with that car, or just with Seb himself, and hearing that radio message over the radio, I think at, like near the midway through, where it was like, you guys have messed up. I was just like, the tension in that team must be so bad. And like last week when Seb just ignored Matteo on the radio, I'm just thinking, how is this man in a team where he clearly doesn't want to be in it anymore? They're clearly not treating him as they were treating him last year. And like one of you said, I don't know if he will finish the season.
I love Seb. I have a soft spot for Seb. Just seeing that Ferrari, it's what they do. I very much think Ferrari is a poison chalice. Red Bull, when they've got a top driver, they treat them very well. Like when Seb was there, he was golden child. No one can touch them. But Ferrari, if you're not winning, you are yesterday's news. Like he very much took the opportunity when Fernando left to take the opportunity to lead Ferrari. He wanted to emulate Schumacher, and he had Kimi there, and Kimi was kind of the perfect sidekick. And then realizing that slowly and surely, as the seasons went on, despite the issues Ferrari had, is they could easily pin it on the driver, and this is why we're not winning world championships. And then Charles comes in, and it's very much he is no longer their priority. I think Ferrari were idiots, to be honest. I think announcing the fact that Seb wasn't continuing with them before the season started shot themselves in the foot, because I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't blame Seb for being a little bit petty if he chose to be, because I think after the way, I think it's Matteo Binotto spoke to Sky Italia, saying that basically because Seb spun, that ruined his race and nothing to do with the strategy. And everyone was like, well, pretty sure you pitted Seb so that Charles wouldn't have to try and overtake him. I hope he gets to see Aston Martin, so he's able to build the team back up. Ferrari are just, to be honest, I think Ferrari are self-saboteurs. They ruin their own chances and things. And I think when Carlos comes into Ferrari, he's going to realise that he probably should have stayed in McLaren.
Almost as if Ferrari is also thinking Sainz might not be that great of a fit, because let's be honest, Lando is actually like kicking Sainz's arse at the minute. Like, he's got over double the amount of points that Sainz has. Like, why would you want a driver that is not the top of their team, that's not doing the best that they can? Like, that McLaren is actually capable of podiums, because we saw Lando get on the podium, and Carlos isn't the person to do that. So why would you want that kind of driver in your team? Like, I think it's going to go both ways, and both of them are going to regret that decision. And I've literally said this so many times, that no teams or drivers should have made their decisions that early, because they've all shot themselves in the foot. I'm so sad for Seb right now. I want Seb to get out of that team. I hate seeing him like this. I would rather him split now.
I think the moment for me was when obviously he hit that curb, and it was, did he hit the curb and then it exploded, like underneath was like, and when it was drifting down and he just looked under, and then when the marshal come over and he was like, no, it's done, and then you could just see him laughing to himself as he walks away. I was like, this man is so done with this team. Like, it's actually, like, it's not even funny.
It's quite interesting because I think the fact that Seb just seems to be so done, and like he knows how to get the best out of a car. Christ, he won in Monza with a Toro Rosso that should never have been there. He is very much still himself, but I think the fact that Charles got in there just destabilised it all. I don't think Ferrari are necessarily as worried about Carlos Sainz, mainly because for them, it's like the whole joke is Carlos is there to be a number 2 driver. It's not going to be a situation of you're going to pin the best against Ferrari. No, to be honest, Charles is their golden. Charles is their Max Verstappen, basically, or their Lewis Hamilton. He's the one that they'll pin their investments in, pin their future in. They are waiting for one of those 5 drivers in F2 to win the championship, to get in Alpha, get a year or two's experience, get them in that Ferrari. To be honest, I think they'd want Charles Leclerc and Mick Schumacher if Ferrari got their way, because you'd have the young gun talent and very much kind of the heritage. But I just think for Ferrari, for a team that has been in motorsport for so long, they are the most backwards, most disorganised, most incompetent team of them all. Like the others, like Racing Point have their issues and things, they have an excuse. Williams I have a gripe with, but Williams are an independent team. They don't necessarily have the funds. Ferrari should be leading the pack, should be the best of the best. They are turning their team into a sham, and they have ruined Sebastian's legacy and his reputation. This is a 4-time world champion. I'm so angry. I'm literally tamping, fuming, raging over it.
Yeah, I really hope Seb can get a seat, even if it's just for 1 year. I really hope he does stay in the sport. I don't think he deserves to go out of the sport in this manner. And we all know Ferrari are clowns now. Everyone knows that. So
yeah.
All right, SteF, what do you think is going to happen at the Spanish Grand Prix? Who do you think is going to qualify in the top 3, and who do you think is going to finish on the top 3?
I think we're going to have 2 Mercedes and Verstappen in the top 3 quali. I don't see who else it could be. I think if Hulk is still in that car, because we don't know whether he's going to be or whether Perez is going to be in that car, I think if Hulk is there, he might give Verstappen a run for his money for P3 again. But I think it's most likely that we're going to have 2 Mercs and Verstappen in the top 3 for quali. Alex Alba's first podium. Please, Alex, don't ruin this for me.
Yeah, I actually tweeted when WTF1 said, what's your predictions? I said, the heat is going to be exactly the same as it was here, probably a little bit more. So Mercs will be having troubles. Alex will get a podium. I really want him on the podium. I don't care who he takes, what spot he takes. I just want him on there. Hannah?
I'm going to say Lewis on pole, Valtteri second, Max third. George will finally get into Q3. Going to go Max is going to win. Lewis second. I'm going to go Albon. I'm going to have to. I think Albon third. And yeah, and George will get a point.
I think we'll leave it there. SteF, thank you so much for coming on and having a chat with us.
Thank you for having me.
As I said before, all her links will be in the description.
Okay.
Bye.